You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 183.4, our boys wrestling state finals preview, with interviews with Madison Grant Jr., Tripp Haisley, and Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call leader, sports editor Michelle Garmon.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, wrestling fans, to our state finals preview show. Today is February 21st, 2025. It's a Friday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I am your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana sports. Coming to you today from Madison Grant High School. Producer Susie is in the control room and headquarters in Jeffersonville. Coming up, I have event details, and I'll break down the state's top teams, each division, top contenders, plus a look at each first-round matchup for our 13 area wrestlers. Also, I spoke with Madison Grant Jr. Tripp Haisley and Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call leader, sports editor Michelle Garmon about Friday and Saturday's finals. Those interviews are coming up. Before we get to that, please do us a huge favor and go subscribe to our channel at YouTube. Even if you're already subscribed at SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, or Amazon, or Red Circle, please go and subscribe at YouTube. We're going to be doing lots of cool things there and starting to put some of our focus on our YouTube channel. Thanks for considering doing that. All right, the state finals begin at 3 o'clock on Friday, so any minute now, with the quarterfinals and semifinals at 9 a.m. Saturday. All the wrestlers who win on Friday advance to Saturday's quarterfinals. Consolation matches start at 4:30 on Saturday, and the state finals matches are at 7:30 on Saturday evening, again at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Last year's team race for the state championship was a great one. Brownsburg won its second state championship in program history by 3 points over Center Grove and by 3.5 over Crown Point. Incredibly close team event. This year's semi-state champions, of course, Delta won its semi-state. Brownsburg, Crown Point, and Warren Central. These teams have the most wrestlers wrestling at the state finals. Crown Point 13, Brownsburg 11, Center Grove 8, Avon 7, Warren Central, New Haven, and Portage have 6, and Delta, Garrett, Cathedral, Merrillville, Penn, and Roncalli have 5 wrestlers apiece. Bloomington South has the most state championships in program history with 24. Evansville Mater Dei has won 13. Southport 6. Of course, Delta has won 5. So has Hammond. Cathedral and Lawrence North have won 4 apiece. So it looks like, again, this year's state championship contenders, Brownsburg would be the favorite, followed closely by Crown Point and Center Grove. Again, anybody, however, that you mentioned with 6'5" wrestlers there, if all of those wrestlers perform well, you would expect to have your team in a pretty good position. And, of course, just because Crown Point and Brownsburg have so many more wrestlers than everybody else, they could lose half of those guys on Friday night and not score any points. So that does not mean that they are automatically going to be the teams at top. But chances are we're looking at a Crown Point, Brownsburg, Center Grove team race. Delta can definitely get into the top 5. All right, looking at the individual weight classes, I'm going to start with the top contenders, in my opinion, in each class, and then our local wrestlers and their first-round matchups. Starting at 106 pounds, the state championship contenders, Westfield freshman Connor Maddox, Brownsburg freshman Traven Ducking, New Haven senior Juliana Ocampo, and Northeastern senior Heather Kroll. 2 girls in this one. Michelle Garmon is coming up at the end with her conversation. She talked a little bit about these young ladies who are now Indiana high school wrestling legends. Local wrestler in the 106-pound division is Delta freshman Reed Wicker, who's 33-4. He'll take on Hanover Central sophomore Julian DeLuna, who's 25-12 in the first round Friday. At 113 pounds, the top contenders, unbeaten and defending 106-pound champion junior Peyton Shetley of Ron Colley and Brownsburg freshman Case Bell look like the two guys who are the favorites going into that one. At 120 pounds, there are lots of contenders in a really good group. 24-1 defending 113 state champion Revan Dickman of Brownsburg, Bluffton senior Levi Johns, Ron Colley junior Blake Getz, Mooresville sophomore Royce Malone, and Crown Point sophomore Gavin Lewis are among the favorites, as is Delta senior Aiden Bollinger, who's 38-3. He'll face Cathedral senior John Bismeyer, who's 25-9 in the first round. Also, Alexandria senior Ezra Fye is 39-6, and he will take on Johns, who is 37-2 in the first round. Of course, Levi Johns from Bluffton. At the 126-pound division, the top contenders are Avon junior Nathan Rio, Eastern Hancock sophomore Braden Voles, Merrillville senior Matthew Maldonado, Crown Point senior Gavin Gindris, Mater Dei senior Ty Henderson, who is the defending 120-pound champion, and Fisher senior Chase Yant, another open division. Also a serious contender, Marion sophomore Hickson Love, who's 43-1. He'll open Friday against Monrovia senior Isaac Ash, who's 29-5. At 132 pounds, defending state champion and unbeaten Jake Hockaday, unbeaten Rochester junior Lane Horn, Warren Central sophomore Donald Bowie, and Newcastle junior Tylen Thrine appear to be the top contenders. Locally, Delta sophomore Sam Mosier, also an outside contender, 34-4. He'll take on Merrillville junior Warren Brown in the first round. Brown is 34-9. Also in the 132-pound division locally is Madison Grant junior Tripp Haisley, making his first trip to the state finals. He's 40-4 and taking on the unbeaten Horn from Rochester in the first round. And on Thursday, I spoke with Tripp Haisley about his first time qualifying for state. I am here at Madison Grant High School with Tripp Haisley making his first trip to the state finals. First of all, just went through a parade through the entire school, all the students there cheering for you. That's probably something you'll never forget, is it?
No, that's a crazy experience. Definitely something I will remember for the rest of my life. I mean, it's pretty crazy seeing everybody in the hallways just lined and the school song playing. It's pretty neat. Yeah,
that was really cool. I'm glad they did that. So you're here at the state finals, first time. Let's just go back a week. What was that like? You know, I think we talked a little earlier. That was really the goal this year, wasn't it? To make this trip.
Yeah, I mean, from the start of this season in November, that's just been the main focus is punching my ticket to the state finals. I wanted to make school history, be the third to do it, and I mean, I definitely accomplished the goal, but I'm not satisfied with it yet. I want to win this match on Friday night, and I want to make school history and be the first to bring a medal back home.
You know anything about your opponent?
I do. I have a really tough Lane Horn from Rochester. Really solid. He has a really solid season. He won the East Chicago semi-state, but I feel really prepared. Me and my coaches, we've been planning all week, planning on how to attack some of his weaknesses, and I feel good going into this Friday night match.
Have you faced him before?
I have not this year, but we've watched a lot of film on him. We kind of have an idea of what he wants to do, some of the tendencies, so we're going to try to attack that, but I definitely don't want to veer too far off of what I've been doing all season. I've had a pretty successful year. I just want to go be myself and just stay in good position, do what I do.
Have you taken the chance to look down the brackets at all? Anybody you'd really like to face?
I have. I mean, my goal, if everything went right, I want to go wrestle Jake Hockaday in the state finals. He's going for his fourth state title, that's crazy. I mean, there's not very many people in Indiana history to do that. 4 state titles is crazy, but I want to go wrestle him under the lights Saturday night. That's obviously the goal.
And you feel like that you are capable of doing that?
I think so, yes. I think I definitely have the ability to do it. I think I have a chance. I got a really good draw this year. Hopefully I can just wrestle well and be my 100% full self and just go let it fly. I don't have a whole lot of pressure on me this weekend. Just go have fun.
You talked about coming into the season, your goal was to get to state. Has the season gone as you planned?
It started out definitely a little bit rough. I got really sick with pneumonia. It was going around really bad at the beginning of this year, and I lost 2 matches I really shouldn't have lost. But I made them back. I wrestled those opponents again, and I beat them later on in the season. So it definitely it was a tough mental aspect of this season. It not starting off the way I wanted, but it's not always about how you start. It's about how you finish, and we're here, so I guess I've completed this goal, and I'm thankful that it happened like this because it made me work harder.
And last question, you're just a junior, so do you look at Saturday as I got there and now this is an experience that I get to take to next year, or is this just about I'm here to get a job done?
It's definitely it's a little bit of both. Like, I'm here to get a job done. I want to bring back home a medal. That's the main goal, main focus of this weekend. But it's a learning experience. It's my first time down here. I have next year. I want to be like a sponge and just soak up all of what this has to offer, all the experiences. I definitely just. Yeah, I want to take a little bit of both. It's definitely a business trip this weekend, but I really want to just learn and see what I can take into next year.
And been doing a lot of interviews lately, huh?
Yeah, a few. I've had a few.
You're really popular right now. Getting to state will do that for you.
I guess so.
All right. Thank you so much, Tripp Haisley, pride of the Madison Grand Argyles. Appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you.
At 138 pounds, top contenders are Lowell sophomore Evan Stanley, Adams Central sophomore Dylan Ogg, Mater Dei senior Isaiah Schaefer, New Pal junior Gunnar Butt, and Brownsburg sophomore Braylon Reynolds. Locally, Western senior Liam Baumgartner is 34-5, and he will take on Reynolds of Brownsburg in the first round. Reynolds 34-4. And Cowan freshman Aston Goney is 35-4, and he will take on Schaefer in the first round from Mater Dei. Schaefer 39-3. In the 144-pound division, the top contenders, Yorktown junior Wyatt Hoppus is 38-2. He's got a good shot at contending for a state championship in this one. New Prairie unbeaten junior Jeffrey Hyvert, New Pal senior Bryce Doss, and Brownsburg junior Tommy Gibbs also look like contenders. Locally, along with Hoppus, is Cowan sophomore Jacob Unger, who's 16-8. He'll take on Brownsburg junior Tommy Gibbs, who is 30-4 in Friday's first round. The top contenders at the 150-pound division, New Haven senior Easton Doster. He's 38-1 and won last year's 144-pound state championship. Eastside junior Lincoln Carter, Adams Central sophomore Brayson Shortgen, Purdue Poly senior Silas Foster, Avon senior Seth Syra, and Portage senior Michael Ortega appear to us to be the top contenders in the division. In the 157-pound division, which last year was won by Western senior Mitchell Betts, who defeated Merrillville junior Adrian Pellet 5-3 in the championship match. This year, the top contenders in the division, with Betts and Pellet both out of the division, New Prairie's unbeaten freshman Matthew Staples, Warren Central senior Christian Arbery, and Rochester junior Brant Beck look like the top 3. Locally, maybe also a contender, though, Cowan junior Jackson Bradley. He opens with Milan senior Caleb Wilburn, who's 41-4 on the season. At 165 pounds, the top contenders, unbeaten in last year's 157 state runner-up Adrian Pellet of Merrillville, Bloomington South senior Evan Raudebush, Belmont senior Gavin Davis, and Carmel senior Michael Major appear to be the top contenders. Locally, another very top contender. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes out of this with a state championship. Hamilton Heights senior Michael Kane, who is 45-2. He will open against Avon junior Griffin Larson, who's 31-9. At 175 pounds, the top contenders, Warren Central junior Waylon Kressel, who was last year's 165-pound champion, Homestead senior Jake Thrash, Terre Haute South senior Coy Bender, Fishers junior Xavier Smith, and Penn junior Vinnie Freeman. Locally, Delta senior Cabe Steven should have a good weekend. He's 35-4. He opens with East Central sophomore Brody Wingate, who's 32-6. At 190 pounds, the defending champion is Rossville junior Noah Weaver, but he will be moving up a division. He defeated in last year's sectional championship or state championship match Gunnar Henry of Brownsburg 10-6. Henry enters this year as the 190 favorite. Also, the other top contenders: Lawrence North Jr. Michael White, McConaughey unbeaten senior Ethan Farnell. Very competitive division with a lot of contenders. And Noah Weaver moves up in the 215-pound division and becomes the favorite in that one. Brownsburg senior Caden Brewer, Northridge unbeaten senior Travis Hinkie, and Crown Point senior Jaden Bardazek are also considered contenders by the Central Indiana Sports Report. And in the 285-pound division that they tell me not to call heavyweight, but they're the heavyweights, the top contenders: Crown Point senior Lucas Zimborski, Homestead senior Caleb Evans, Lowell freshman Cameron Hazlitt, Leo junior Isaiah Kuhlman, and Brownsburg senior Maximus Forrester. Some really good wrestlers in that division. Also, some really cool names for wrestlers. Please stay tuned for Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader Sports Editor Michelle Garmon.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
All right, Michelle, wrestling state finals this weekend. It wouldn't be a state finals without getting your thoughts.
Yeah, first, shout out to Delta. What a performance they had at the
Wow.
semi-state. And to get the kids that they got through to the state, good luck to the Delta Eagles. They got a really good wrestling program.
Yes.
I want to give
I do want to say real fast that when Yorktown beat them in the sectional, I did say I don't think that's gonna keep them from winning the regional. I didn't predict the semi-state, but that's a really good team and a really good program.
It is really, really good. And I want to give a shout out to and a good luck shout out, I should say, to Alexandria senior Ezra Phi. I'm so glad to see him punch his ticket and
Very
get to
cool.
state. It is very cool. He's going to have a tough time because he has to has to wrestle against the semi-state champion tomorrow. Now he'll be in the early thing because, folks, they started this last year, 2 years ago, where the first rounds for the 106 through, I believe it's 144.
Right, correct.
They are in the afternoon, and then from 150 to 285, the first round matches are of an evening. I'm kind of glad they did it that way. It makes for it doesn't seem to last quite as long as it did before they kind of split that up. The Parade of Champions is in the morning, so Ezra will wrestle on that first thing. And then I want to give a good luck shout out to Zionsville Jr. Hank Fennessy at 150, who punched his ticket. He placed third at the Newcastle Semi-State and to advance to the state champion, the state finals, and he was a sectional and regional champion. He is the son of former Tipton standout wrestler Luke Fennessy, who was a state qualifier, and Jenny maiden name Bumgardner Fennessy, and his uncles Rob and Craig ran cross country, and Craig was the better. I mean, Rob was a good runner, Craig was better, and a little bit better.
Well, consider him adopted by the Central Indiana Sports Report family.
Yes, I mean it was what a great story for him. So good luck to Hank tomorrow too. So and he'll be in the evening and because he's 150. If you you have to unfortunately you have to pay, but you don't have to pay to log into Flow Wrestling. You won't get to see him physically, but you can follow the match you can follow the scoring by clicking on the number by his match.
Again, I want to say so unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, especially for the minor sports.
Yeah, I want to say real fast, and I said no tangents tonight because it's late. I watched every single IHSA track state finals from the time I remember. 1981 is the first one I remember, both boys and girls, and I can remember the names, and those were my heroes. And now all those kids are not going to get to grow up knowing who these kids are because they're not going to pay to, the kid who just wanted to turn on WTTV and watch it. I could just watch it. And my parents had no influence. These kids aren't even going to know it's on.
Well, and how about this? And this is still one of my pet peeves too. You know what we have this weekend? We have the girls semi-state. Outstanding. It's probably I know the state championships mean the most, but this is probably the best part of the girls. So they're battling against the boys wrestling state finals and the boys swim sectionals are this weekend. Come
Right.
on, IHSA. You make all of these minor
There's
and
not enough
female
media
sports
left to
have
cover
to
all that.
share the marquee, but you leave boys basketball getting the whole freaking all of the thing. It just you cannot say that you truly support all your student athletes and your female
No, you
athletes
can't.
and treat them that way.
Not if you hide them on a pay site. The performance of the children is not your top priority anymore,
No.
and they need a change in vision. You know what? Michelle Malone was one of my heroes as a child, and I never would have known who they were if they charged me to watch her
No.
perform.
I got to see Michelle Malone run in person.
That's
And
my
actually,
point.
my sister ran against her once. So, but
That's my
yeah,
point. No one would have known who she was if it wasn't available to be seen,
exactly.
and that's where it's headed.
Yep.
There are still people interested because they've done things the old way, but once I'm telling you, you could charge $1 and people will go, I'll find something else to watch. I'll see what happened. Not everybody. There are going to be a lot of people willing to pay it because they have direct interest. But you're going to get a lot of people who just go, yeah, you know what? There's awful lot of stuff I can watch on things I'm already paying for, and again, a lot of people will watch it. It's worth watching. It's worth $26, by the way. But there are a lot of people who are not going to be able to do it or just aren't going to be willing to do it. And you want it in front of as many people as you can possibly get it. Put it free on YouTube and have sponsors take care of it. Whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing out one thing that you can do. Michelle is obviously every bracket in this for every division, as I've gone over, is full of champions and guys who are capable of beating anybody on a given day. But seems like a pretty good uh, draw for Tripp. And if he has a really good day, um, who knows how far he could advance. Like you said, going to be really tough for for Phi. It's unfortunately, but for Tripp, the couple guys he thinks that are the top guys, including the three-time defending champion, are on the other half of the bracket.
Yeah, here's the thing when you get once you get to the semi-state level and to the state level, you can't make mistakes. I'm going to go back real quick to last week, Newcastle semi-state. I really thought William Mulford for Tipton had a really good shot, but also being down here. And, he was leading his match 8-3 going into the third period. And he got taken down or what and ended up on his back. He just made a small little mistake. And those are, this is the level I've had really good wrestling coaches tell me in the past. Rex Levitt of Elwood, Cal Warner of Tipton, and everything. You can't, the state level, you get to this level, you have to, wrestling, what's going on between your ears is as important
Oh
as
yeah,
everything else because at this level, you will pay for a mistake.
that's really what makes the difference at this level is who can think quickest.
Yes.
IHSA Wrestling State Finals. If you've never been, go. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
it, Uh, it is. You hear about it and the parade of champions and everything. What an experience! And like I said, I just hate it that it falls on semi-state weekend for girls basketball and swim sectional weekend. I think wrestling. I think it's such an event, such a neat experience that I wish they had a weekend of their own.
Two have to be absolute legends now in the sport. Juliana Ocampo of New Haven and Heather Kroll of Northeastern are both back in the state finals. Um, and two elite wrestlers at the 106 level.
Yeah, girls wrestling first year sanctioned by the HSA, And so all these female wrestlers had a choice. They could not wrestle in both tournaments, which that is fair. They should not be able to wrestle in both.
I think the first one you probably should have, but I get you.
And then so they had to declare whether they were wrestling in women's or men's, and so these two, they wanted to be, because they've been there. They
Right.
they want to
Yeah.
wrestle the best, and
And
so
that's what I
they
mean.
chose.
That's what I mean, Michelle. I think as long as they're in school, they should be able to have been done both.
Well,
But then they
but the
phase
boys
it out.
can't do. But here's the thing: boys can't do both. And if you really want to be fair,
No, I
and
know, but it's just beginning and you're trying to get the sport to the
well,
best
here's
you
what.
can. There's no
Right.
reason that they can't do both.
Right. But
Just
here's
saying.
the thing. I think the girls should still be able to wrestle. I think this year and next year, because
Yes.
they don't have enough wrestlers, that the girls should be able to wrestle in the boys' stand meets, not in the tournament, but the
Right.
meets during the
Sure.
season. And they can't do that. And then it makes it harder, and they have to go to these big meets on Saturdays, which still makes it tough. And there's still a lot of forfeits. If they want to, then not all of them are going to want to wrestle in a boys' meet, but if they want to, let them wrestle in the boys' meet. Who cares right now? I mean, you're trying to build the sport, and you want the best. You're going to want the best female wrestlers wanting to wrestle in the girls' tournament. So let's make sure they get plenty of matches. And I think that's one of the reasons some of these girls chose to wrestle with the
Yes.
boys, because
Absolutely.
they want the matches.
And that's why I think that they should be allowed to go and compete with the boys if they want, and also be able to decide that they're the best girl in the state. I don't see anything wrong with that. But if they made the decision, you have to declare it's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to go on that tangent, too. Also, Michelle, and this is probably my favorite thing about individual sports, and one thing the IHSA has done very right, um, is that the quote unquote individual sports have stayed single class. There's no reason a kid from a 1A school can't compete with a kid from a 4A school just because a team of 11 couldn't. So I love that they've kept the single class sports, or the individual sports single class. The great thing about it is it always produces great stories, kids from tiny schools who have great success. And man, the programs at Cowan and Westdale to get 5 combined kids to the state finals in wrestling, that is an incredible feat.
It is an incredible feat. Two small schools, Class A schools, by the way,
Yes.
to get that's fantastic.
And you agree, right? That those sports should stay single class, right?
Yeah, I think the only sport at this point that bothers me that it's all one class right now is, but I get it, is pretty much kind of like swimming, especially girls swimming.
Oh
And
yeah,
Carmel just extended its thing, and
yeah,
Carmel's gonna. You just don't. I just feel sorry for schools that go to that Carmel sectional, because now, granted, the Kokomo girl, Simmons girl, was fantastic. She made it to state,
yes. Great job by her.
but it's still. And I know Tipton had a boy that made it to state, and so that is great. So I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem, I think, in girls swimming, that it's so hard to get out of that Carmel or Noblesville, because they alternate who hosts the girls and who hosts the boys every year. You host it one year, girls one year, you host the boys next, and vice versa. And maybe that
Yeah.
won't continue now that Carmel's got that great multi-million-dollar natatorium that rivals any college natatorium. Have you seen
Yes,
pictures of that sucker?
yes, and it's amazing. But I will say that that's something that's it's kind of unique, and it's
I
it
guess what
doesn't
I
make it
think what
very interesting. And it's not
there's
Carmel's fault. Don't get me wrong.
no
They should be going for as much as they want. All I'm saying is there's so much talent concentrated in one area that the rest of the state, it's almost like they're not even competing. So something probably needs to be done with that. Um,
maybe they have a diving regional.
they do.
Maybe you could have
Yeah,
a swim regional where you cut back the
absolutely.
number of sectional team, the sectional teams, so some of those other powerhouses Or when you realign sectionals, don't make the same schools have to go to the Carmel sectional every year.
Exactly. Thanks to Michelle and Tripp Haisley for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please go like, subscribe, or follow us, and tell a friend about the Central Indiana Sports Report. And the Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie. Thanks, everyone.